Ladies and gentlemen, if you would please take your seats. Sorry for the delayed start. The Afghani ambassador is not here at the moment, but my name is John McKenna. I'm the conference moderator, and my job really is to keep everybody on time, or try to anyway. So we're having a little late start. First of all, any signaling devices like this, we could kindly turn off the noise-making side of it, just to make sure we don't get any interruptions. And with those few notes, if there are any things that come up during the day, just seek me out and we'll see if we can solve them, if it's possible. Yeah, make sure you have these. Okay, so with that, I will introduce the Honourable Bill Graham, our chairman, and do the introductions there.
Thanks very much. Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our annual conference here in Ottawa. We're just going to see if, for the sake of the health of the panelists, we can get those bright lights killed. I think they thought Justin Bieber was coming here or something. They've got to kind of set it up with rather more light than we need. I think generally our...
They're doing it for the video recording.
Oh, okay. We're going to video record, so I apologize. This is efficiency then. And as usual, the Atlantic Council's meetings will shed more light than heat on things, is what we are intending to do, is our usual efforts. It's just my pleasure to welcome each and every one of you here to what I think will again be a very important Atlantic Council conference. We will be beginning with a review of Afghanistan. The ambassador will be coming and joining us, but as Colonel McKenna said, we'll reverse the order to allow him to arrive, and we'll put our panelists on. We're very pleased to have Ted Whiteside with us from NATO, Nina Banjari, who I worked with in Afghanistan when I was there, and who still works in Afghanistan, and René Philitreau, who worked with me in Afghanistan as well, and also spent a great deal of time in Kandahar, and is very familiar with the present situation in Afghanistan. I have attended so many conferences recently. You can appreciate Afghanistan is at the focal point of so much of our interest at this time. When you think, I'm trying to think, 2005, 2004, when we started planning the combat mission, to go to the PRT, to Kandahar, if anybody had said that we would lose over 100 lives, that we would have countless injured, that we would spend billions and billions of dollars in a country that was quite unfamiliar to us prior to 9/11, it is a remarkable for Canadians, but it's also remarkable for our American friends to see what they have put into Afghanistan. It's remarkable when we go and talk to our Chinese friends and see their interest in Afghanistan today, or our Indian friends, or our Pakistani friends. The region is an extraordinarily complex, volatile, and at the center of it remains Afghanistan. And so after so much blood and treasure, it really behooves us as Canadians to follow this story, to stay on top of it, to see what we can do to continue to help, because this will remain a preoccupation for us. There's no way that Afghanistan is just going to go away because we've decided to take our troops out of Afghanistan. It's there, and will be a preoccupation for all of us who are interested in foreign policy and all of us who are concerned about a safer world. So I'm thrilled that we have the panel that we do. Excellent speakers who will shed a better understanding of the problems of Afghanistan. I'm thrilled that the ambassador has been willing to join us. Our next two panels are different in that they deal with what I would call new threats and new weapons, in which we could even say new environments in which operations are entering uncharted territory, raising difficult questions of legal and moral legitimacy. On cyberspace, the subject of an excellent program of the Atlantic Council a couple of years ago, some of you may have been here. We will have a panel chaired by Elaine Kazowicz, an excellent overview from Dr. Raphael Ranowski, Ted Whiteside on NATO's role, and General Leslie's view of the Canadian forces. And I'm sorry, we will be having, my recollection, and General Leslie is here, but General, my recollection is that when you were speaking at Trinity College some years ago about transformation, when you were in charge of transformation, we discussed cyber warfare at that time and remarked about the fact that even with the significant cuts that various parts of the military would be seeing, that the cyber dimension of what we had to do would probably see increased budgets. And if my memory serves me correctly, I think we had a budget of about $750 million a year into the CSE when I was Minister of National Defense, and I think it's over $1.3 billion today. So, and if we talk to our American colleagues, British, others, for those who are following, who've seen the story of Stuxnet, who've seen the story, who know, or if you ever talk to a banker about the billions of criminal activities that they have to deal with. So here we're entering into a world of private criminality, non-state actors, difficult to attribute the source of an attack from. You know, remember the Estonian attack? Nobody was too sure exactly where it came from. So we're glad to have Ted Whiteside again joining us, because NATO does have a particular interest in this problem as to how to defend itself and its own requirements, but its member states will remain responsible for their own defense and responsible for their own offense, because I think the interesting thing about cyber warfare was when we originally talked about it, it was all about defense. How do we prevent our infrastructure from being attacked? How do we prevent enemies from climbing into our own internal government communications? Today, it's about offense as well. There's no question about that. All modern militaries are looking about the offensive capacity. And obviously, if you can destroy the enemy's communications and ability to communicate with the sophisticated weapon systems we have, this is a key part of any military operation today. So we're lucky to have the panel we do to shed some light on that extraordinarily important issue. Thirdly, we will have a panel considering the use of drones. Some say now President Obama's instrument of choice to reach otherwise inaccessible places. How do they operate? What are their advantages and disadvantages? What are the legal and moral constraints on their use? Are they just like any other weapon with all the checks and determining of appropriate target, reducing civilian casualties and proportionality as set out in the International Criminal Code? Or are they a form of extra legal summary execution? These are very serious questions. We're lucky to have a panel today where we'll have Ian Glenn and Brigadier General Joyce, both of whom are extremely knowledgeable about how drones work, where the place of drones in the Canadian military. This is important for us to understand before we have to deal with some of the other things. We have to get our minds around what is the use of this particular weapon? How is it? What is our government's view on how it is going to be used? These are important questions. But as well, we have Professor Errol Mendes, who will be speaking to us on the broader question of what I would call the legal and moral picture, something that is preoccupying a lot of people. I recently was attending a conference in the United States where we dealt extensively on cyber warfare, and of course there they were facing an extraordinarily complicated constitutional question about whether or not the killing of an American citizen authorized by the president by a drone was a form of extra-legal execution contrary to the Constitution of the United States. As a non-American, and I respect the Americans amazingly and a great deal, but I found it a very interesting discussion because there was no question about the legal or moral question of the use of drones when it was a question of killing other people. But once one's own citizen was killed, suddenly this became a serious issue. And let's face it, these things are not going to be restricted. We've got them now and we use them. But we know from all weapon systems that somebody else gets the weapons sooner or later, and drones are now being developed at a micro level and a small level. that could represent a threat to all of us in ways that we can't foresee. So I think this is a very timely panel, and I look forward to the reflections of our panelists on that. And finally, we will be our concluding address will be given by Senator Pamela Wallin, presently chairman of the Senate Defense Committee, and I have an opportunity to introduce Senator Wallin prior to her speech, but I'm very glad that she's willing to join us. So if we could get our panelists to come and join us here on the stage, we'll begin the first panel, and then we'll look forward to hearing the remarks from His Excellency when he gets with us. Thank you very much.